Now, as South Africa marks Heritage Month, the National Assembly has passed the Copyright Amendment Bill and the Performance Protection Amendment Bill. This is to assist in improving the lives of those working in the creative industry. Now, Arts and Culture Minister Nathi Mthethwa says this will go a long way towards addressing some legacy issues like royalties for repeat programs on television. President Cyril Ramaphosa had kicked the bills back to Parliament in 2020. Let's speak now to SA Guild of Actors Chair Jack Devnarain and Tony Kgoroge, actor, director and producer. Thank you so much to you gentlemen for your time this evening. Let me start with you, Tony. What is your reaction to the latest developments?
Well, I'm actually thrilled to see that at least this thing now is coming to fruition. I mean, we've been at the foreground trying to fight and making sure that, the entire regime of the copyright is protected, and people are getting due protection in terms of their artwork.
And for you, Jack?
We've been working consistently, making submissions to Parliament since the bills were introduced by the Department of Trade and Industry in 2016. And every submission that was called for through the stakeholder engagement process, SAGA, has been front and center representing our members and all performers who have a stake in trying to earn a residual income from the continuous exploitation of their work. So we have seen a number of setbacks over the years, including, as you mentioned earlier, when the president remitted the bills to the portfolio committee, which was hugely disappointing to us. But we see that there is progress, and a reminder that this all happened before in 2018 and 2019. The bills had already passed the National Assembly and NCOP processes. We are back there again. So, yes, we do see this as progress, but it's almost as if we are redoing the homework.
And, Jack, really, while on that issue of exploitation, the issue of royalties has been huge, particularly where the repeat programs are concerned. Does this bill go far enough towards ensuring that there's protection in that area?
Not yet. And I think the areas that still need to be addressed will be addressed through the process of drafting the regulations to the bills. If the president is satisfied that the bills in their current form have passed constitutional muster and that the NCOP itself has satisfied itself that that processes have been followed and that people's interests have been properly looked into and addressed by the bills in their form now. So we still have a way to go, and ultimately industry must continue to make their inputs.
Tony, listening to Jack, and he says something that, we're all thinking about at the back of our minds, that this matter is back to where it was in 2018, 2019. How confident are you that the needle will move further now to where it was and being sent back, and now we are here again?
Well, I think it's just one of those things that has to happen, and we just have to make sure from our side that it happens faster than it has been happening. That it has been going on before. And one of the things that I wanted to mention was that we need to allow our government to make sure that they do a proper impact assessment on this bill. And more especially on the issues of this fair use, the fair use clause and stuff like that. Because this fair use thing has caused a great controversy within the industry in terms of who are for it and who are against it. And between me and Jack, as we're sitting here, we're sitting on different sides of the fence, even though we agree on most of the things that the bill is talking about. But it's those things that we would love our government to take it dearly to their heart, and making sure that there's a proper impact assessment done to make sure that whatever happens, it just meets constitutional matter.
You agree with that, Jack, especially when it comes to the issue of impact assessment, because it's one thing to have the laws in paper, it's another to ensure that the desired impact is actually seen on the ground.
Well, the issue of the impact assessment is one of a list of items that many commentators have referred to when they say that this has been or when they allege that this has been insufficiently seen to. And I think we must refer this to the work being done over years by the legislature itself. We need to ask whether the processes have been properly dealt with, and whether the work of the portfolio committee itself has gone into substance. And I believe that there is no way that the National Assembly would have passed these bills. When I say these bills, I mean the Copyright Amendment Bill and the linked Performers Protection Amendment Bill. They would not have reached this stage if the National Assembly itself was not satisfied that an impact assessment had been completed.
Interesting, to hear both sides of the argument. And Tony, I'm keen to find out from you, how significant is this, given the fact that this year the theme we're seeing for Heritage Month is celebrating the legacy of Mr. Solomon Linda. And one thinks back to his battle when it comes to the recognition for that song, Mbube, or The Lion Sleeps Tonight, as some may call it. How significant is this that this is happening now?
Well, it's a great thing, but it's not only Bob Solomon that this has happened to. We have a lot of artists. Some of them have passed on, and some of them are still alive, who are still going through that. And I think, and I'm hoping, I'm hoping that all this happening, it's just not for a show, but it becomes a meaningful impact to transform and improve the lives of the creatives, whether being it musicians, whether being it actors, whether being it photographers, you name it.
And, this was going to be my next question, Jack, because when one thinks about, these injustices, the minister launching Heritage Month touched on it as well, to say that Mr. Linda died poor and his descendants did not benefit from his work because of copyright issues. And as Tony says, sadly, decades on, this continues. The impact is still being felt, by various creatives on this particular issue. Take us through the impact of this, these copyright issues that this has had on the creative industry.
I'll give it a perspective in terms of its timeline. The Copyright Act itself was from 1978. The Performers Protection Act is from 1967, which is a time before TV even existed, let alone audiovisual rights as we refer to them now, in terms of streaming platforms that are available, or audiovisual content being made available on the internet and on YouTube. So we are so far behind, not just the rest of the world, but even behind many parts of Africa. So South Africa has got to step up its legislative process in order to protect those people, those creatives that we consider to be the legends of the industry, the people who help to lay the foundations of our cultural heritage. If we cannot protect them in statute, then we are failing them. And we cannot afford to do that if we want to preserve our heritage and, in fact, create more opportunities for the young talents that are coming through the system right now. So we need to create the opportunities for them. And in order to enable them to create their best work, we've got to make sure that the statutory environment that they are entering must protect them, and it must give recognition to the work of those creative greats that have come before.
I know we were talking about the National Assembly a little earlier on, Jack, but when one looks at the Performers Protection Amendment Bill, the minister also has responsibilities there, when it comes to the level of involvement that is required when it comes to some of the agreements that are drawn up between the performer, producer and the broadcaster. How much of this will be able to assist?
I think this places the burden of responsibility in the correct place, because for many years, and Tony certainly has been on the forefront of this, when performers stepped up to say that we are being exploited and abused by the exploitative contracts that we are forced to sign, then there was no opportunity to meet with broadcasters or producers to say, let's address this in an equitable process. Nobody wanted to listen to us, and it took extreme action before people were able to actually hear what we had to say. Now, given that we have finally brought our case before Parliament itself, which is the supreme lawmaking body of the country. We are not now going back to industry to plead with them to say, please, would you make sure that the contracts that we sign are fair and equitable? No, we're now going to take this to government, and we're going to say the minister must step up, and he must stand in the place of those vulnerable people, the most vulnerable creative workers who are being ridiculed and who are being exploited every single day. We must now ask the minister to step up. And it's not just the Minister of Arts and Culture. Remember, we are talking about an industry. We will be appealing to the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition as well.
Tony, as we wrap up very briefly then, which are some of the areas for you that you think change needs to continue to be agitated in? Because the minister also talks about this going to be an important aspect to ensure that there's continuation when it comes to agitating for change. In 30 seconds for you, your parting shot.
Yeah, well, I think, from our side, it's just to make sure that, it's just to make sure that people get protection more than anything else. And over and above that, we have these new players that are coming. I mean, Jack was talking about how far behind we are in terms of moving with this copyright thing. And now that we have these streamers coming in, we have new people who have been ahead of us for years. Now they are coming in and they're still finding us being left behind. That, unfortunately, might leave a room for more exploitation. And I think there's something that when this bill comes back to the industry, we need to look into those kind of things and really go deeper into finding out exactly what it is that the streamers are bringing and what it is that we can gain from them and what is it that they can exploit and how far they can exploit the creative works.
And I hope we have that conversation, Tony, when that time comes. But let me thank you both for your time. Do appreciate it this evening. And this, of course, is a conversation that we need to continue to have. That is SA Guild of Actors Chair Jack Devnarain and Tony Kgoroge, Actor, Director and Producer.